Rockaways Productions presents The Casey Waters Show, episode 521. I am the Five. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Waters, and today I will continue with For the Good of All. Here I look at the relationship of welfare benefits and low-wage jobs, among other things, trying to find ways to good governance that serves everybody. Later on, it's I am the Five. Here, I use my memory and go back to my distant past and look at what it was like to be 5 years old and marginally autistic. Today's show will feature background footage from Sam's Knob. Sam's Knob is located off the Blue Ridge Parkway and is near Black Balsam. To get there, take US 64 West from Hendersonville. Then continue straight onto Highway 276. When you reach the Blue Ridge Parkway, take the parkway heading south. Go past Graveyard Fields, and then there'll be a road off to the right. Follow that road until it ends. Park, and then Sam's Knob Trail, kind of goes off in one way, and the opposite direction is Black Balsam Trail. Anyway, so now let's continue with For the Good of All. Well, then the hospital would have to pick up the tab. The hospital would have to pay for the care of these people, eating into their profits, or they would have to deny them care, or perhaps give them less care. Whatever the situation, it doesn't sound good. We don't want people getting less care than they need or being turned away. They need to be taken care of. They need to get the proper treatment for their condition. And that's anybody who shows up at the hospital, whether they have money to pay for the bill or not. Well, if they don't have money to pay the bill, often Medicaid pays it. Well, if Medicaid pays less of it, then the hospital has to pay more. And if you have too many of these Medicaid patients and their payments are being reduced, that is, the amount the hospital gets reimbursed from the government is being reduced, the hospital might even have to shut down. This is unfortunate. However, it is happening all across the country. Many hospitals are being shut down, not just in rural areas, but in cities as well. A lot of these hospitals, if not all of them, have a lot of patients who don't have much in the way of income, who find it difficult to pay for their care and need help from Medicare and Medicaid. If they don't get reimbursed from Medicare and Medicaid, then the hospital will have to shut down, or the doctor's office might have to shut down because they're not being paid properly. They're not being paid enough for the services they provide. We need more Medicare and Medicaid. Sure, we need to defend both. Millions of seniors and people on disabilities rely on Medicare. Millions more on low income rely on Medicaid. We need to protect both. We need to ensure that both are strong, well funded, so they can pay for this medical care that people need, so doctors and hospitals could stay open and provide quality care. They need enough money to do that. And if the government pays more Medicare and Medicaid benefits, well, then the doctors and hospitals can provide better care and perhaps even charge us less, the remaining portion of the population who isn't on Medicare and Medicaid. I know it's all very complicated, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of propaganda about this too. Because corporate America, well, they want to have less Medicare and Medicaid so they can pay us less. Remember, if minimum wage workers get less, well, then the people who make a little bit more than them get less. And the people who make a little more than that, and a little more than that, you see where I'm going, is gonna catch up to you. And you're gonna make a little bit less, even though you might be in a fairly decent job. So let's avoid making less by ensuring that Medicaid and Medicare is taken care of, and unemployment insurance and other welfare benefits. We need to take care of the poorest amongst us so we can all thrive. When they do better, we do better. A rising tide lifts all boats. It's the trickle up theory. Do you ever hear about it on Fox News or on any news for that matter? Well, not too much. But in reality, it is true. You give money to the poorest amongst us, you give them more money, well, they'll spend that money quickly. It will stimulate the economy quickly, and the economy will grow. You give money to the most wealthiest amongst us, well, often that money doesn't get spent. It will just be saved, put away, saved for a rainy day, perhaps not being spent for many years, and so that provides less benefit to the economy. The money often doesn't trickle down in terms of investments or higher wages. Often the money is kept, and it just simply means more profit for the wealthy individuals and corporations. So by giving these wealthy individuals and corporations tax breaks, most of the money doesn't trickle down in the terms of higher wages or better working conditions. Most of it is saved and only benefits the wealthy corporations and individuals. To have everybody benefit, from the poorest amongst us all the way up to the wealthy corporations, use the trickle up theory. Put money into the hands of the poorest people. Watch how quickly they spend it, and watch the economy grow. It happens every year in Alaska when everyone gets their permanent fund dividend. Suddenly, in the fall, when the economy is slow, well, everybody has money to buy a new car or go on a vacation, and car dealerships are offering double your dividend on a down payment on a new car. Travel agents are offering wonderful deals. You're being pulled in every direction. You don't know where to spend your money because there's so many good deals out there. It's just so tempting. but at least you have the extra money to spend, thanks to the Alaska Permanent Fund dividend, which is from the sales of land for oil companies to develop, and from the taxes the oil companies pay on every barrel of oil they extract from Alaska. Some of the money goes to the Permanent Fund dividend. Some of it goes to run the state, and some of it grows the Permanent Fund. I thought it was a third for each. Anyway, moving along. We have to look at how we treat homeless people. Remember what I said before. No one is superior to anyone else. And, well, many states and municipalities are adopting laws making it more difficult to be homeless, making it more difficult to sleep outside, having more locations prohibited for sleeping outside. Well, once again, just like being unemployed, well, perhaps most of us have just a few months of unemployment might make us homeless. And then what are we going to do? Especially if we can't camp out in most locations. It's going to make things really difficult. Sure. And, well, even if we can camp in the city, it's still not going to be fun. Being homeless is never fun. And if we reduce the help we give to homeless people, well, then we'll all suffer. For even homeless people, if somehow you gave them money, they would spend it quickly. It would stimulate the economy and benefit us all. Homeless people will spend their money a lot faster than wealthy corporations. Seriously. So the homeless people deserve the money, not the wealthy corporations. If we give it to the wealthy corporations, very little of it will trickle down to benefit the rest of us. If we give the money to the homeless and poor people, well, they'll spend it quickly, and all of us will benefit. And so, well, what else is going on? We have to look at how we treat immigrants and minorities. It's the same thing. If we treat them worse, well, then we'll all suffer. If they make less money, well, even if we make more money, we'll only make a little more than they make. So, the less immigrants and minorities make, well, overall, the less we make. Sure, it's similar to driving down the minimum wage. If the minimum wage goes down, well, then most people's wages go down. If the minimum wage goes up, well, then most people's wages go up. Well, we have to look at how we treat them. Because in the past, they were paid less. And perhaps certain Republicans want to make that legal again, to pay minorities less than other people. Sounds so cruel, but perhaps a lot of people want to bring it back. And if you did bring it back and you paid them less, well, chances are everyone would get less money, even if you get slightly more than the minorities or immigrants. So we have to watch how we treat these people. We have to treat them fairly. And we have to be ready to adapt. in these tougher situations that might be ahead with less health care and less welfare benefits, well, we might have to work more. We might have to help out our neighbors more. We might have to take on different versions of ourselves, in a sense, or different roles. So sometimes we'll be the caretaker, and other times we'll take care of ourselves. But we might be more often the caretaker in the future, taking more care of other people, because more people will be in need, because the poor people will have less money, because the wealthy corporations will have more money. It just seems so cruel, as if somebody wants us all to suffer. Well, we have to avoid all that. We have to be ready to help each other when conditions get adverse. Be ready to cheer each other up. Be each other's cheerleader. Sure, we have to all work together. We have to all work together for the good of all. Now it is time for I Am the Five. Here I look at what it was like to be 5 years old and marginally autistic. And I use my memory and look at some other time periods in my life. Sure, it was all very interesting. So, I am the five. Well, it should have an explanation point after it. I am the five. Like it's something wonderful. Sure it was. Being 5 years old and marginally autistic. Well, obviously it was up and down, but there was definitely some enthusiastic, wonderful portions to it. And I remember that. I remember the enthusiasm about being 5 years old. I guess I made it all the way to 5. I'm growing up. I'm becoming a bigger boy, learning more, being able to do more. Sure, all with great enthusiasm. Yeah, you betcha. I remember my older sister teaching me how to count using pennies. I remember my brother teaching me about the planets. So, I guess there's a song associated with I Am the Five. The song is I Fought the Law and the Law Won. Well, you listen to this song, it seems relatively upbeat and happy, and that's the way I interpret it, especially in my autistic sense. So why should he be happy about fighting the law and the law winning? Sounds like he should be bummed out, perhaps on the way to jail. But hold on, I'm only 5 years old. I'm not going to jail. So, I guess the reason why there's a positive spin on this is, well, the memory's vague, and perhaps it happened several times under different circumstances over the years when I was a child. Sure, I might do something wrong and make a mistake, and perhaps even be defiant. But then I would learn. My mom or some other authority figure would explain to me how I made a mistake and why it was a mistake. And then I would learn from it and I would be a better person. And so that made me happy. Also, sometimes my mom or whoever was in authority, like a teacher or whatever, well, I guess a teacher of maybe I guess back then I was in well, it was nursery school. So I guess in nursery school, which came before kindergarten, I would, deal with the authority figures of the teacher there. And even though I might have lost, the teacher might see my viewpoint more readily and perhaps stick up for me more in similar situations. And that way was a victory. So, as I said, there's this enthusiasm. I remember to being 5 years old. I guess this was part of my marginal autism. I like to go in my mind and be by myself and think about what I want to think about. Well, there was that, but occasionally I did interact with my friends and siblings. With one brother and 4 sisters, there was a lot going on, and I would often have a good time with them. So I guess it was overall fun all around, from being by myself and enjoying my own company with my autism to having friends and siblings. And of course, when I was at 5 years old, I was really good at oohing. Sure, I could do it real good. I can't do it so good anymore. Well, anyway, in case you forgot, ooh was something I did when I was autistic, and I guess I could still do to some point. But back when I was 5, I could do it really good. Do what? Well, first you concentrate on something interesting. Well, to a 5-year-old, perhaps a plane taking off. Sure, as it gains speeds and slowly lifts off the runway. Or perhaps a well-designed cloverleaf intersection, how the cars go smoothly around the ramp. If you keep a consistent speed and you're the passenger, well, if you stare straight ahead, it will often look like the world is turning around you, like you're stationary and doing a slow turn. Remember, do this as a passenger, not as a driver. Anyway, so I would get into those things. I would imagine them. And as I imagine it, such as the plane taking off, I could feel the sensation of the plane rising as the plane took off. I could hear the roar of the engines. I could feel the acceleration. Well, what I didn't notice, well, I would shut down perception. I wouldn't see what's around me. I would see what I'm thinking about. The plane taking off. And often I wouldn't hear what's around me. Instead, I would be focused on the noise I imagine there is, such as the roar of the engines. And so thus people could sneak up on me readily, which they sometimes did. However, usually when they get within 5 or 10 feet of me, I would notice them. And the ooh would end. I would instantly be drawn back into reality. No more jet engine taking off. Now I'm dealing with my brother, or whoever it is. Oh well. And of course I like to do ooh all the time. So occasionally I even did it during recess at school. and thus I was a target for bullying. You betcha, especially kindergarten through second grade. So, anyway, so it's nice, that is, be able to look back on it and see how I saw being 5 in a positive light. A time of learning new things, of accomplishing new things, and being able to do more, understand more. Sure, it gave me reason to be enthusiastic, but it goes beyond that. Sure, it does for me. 'Cause I remember earlier. Well, how early? Well, I'm not quite sure. I guess maybe 1.5 or 2 years old. I have a vague memory of my mom coming home at night with groceries, and I was in the kitchen, and she set the groceries down on the floor, and I remember reaching up as if I wanted to suckle on her breast. Perhaps on the same night, I remember crawling on the floor. I remember I could walk too. I could do either one, but often I preferred to crawl. Around the same time period, well, my younger sister, little over a year younger than me, well, somehow she got out of diapers before I did. I can even remember that. Of course, it upset me somewhat, but I wasn't, quote, ready yet. Well, after a few more months, I got out of diapers too. And so on and so on. And those giant diaper pins. Yeah, don't forget those. They can really stick you and hurt. Yeah, I remember that too. Lots of memories of the distant past. Sure. Well, then it goes, well, there's the alternate title of the show. I Am the 5 embraces what I'm...
Casey Waters Show. Producer, Casey Waters. Graphic editing, Judson Laird. Please note our new email address, CaseyWaters2 at CaseyWaters.com.